We got Thursday Night Football, Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus Chicago Bears. Tampa Bay's offense looks like it's doing well. They're now operating like a well-oiled machine. We haven't even seen them at full strength yet. Then you got the Chicago Bears made the move to Nick Foles. I watched the Chicago Bears versus Indianapolis Colts game live, and I don't look. I completely support the change to Nick Foles. I still do, but Chicago ran into the best defense in the league at this point. The Indianapolis Colts defense is so impressive. For years, we're used to Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning. It's the offense. This is a defensive show in Indianapolis, and it just is what it is there, man. Indianapolis is living in the backfield the entire game. But as I do, let me hit you with projections here, and then we'll let you take it away, David. So Tampa Bay at this point, look, I know Chicago's defense is strong. I know I was just talking about Indianapolis. Chicago played a great defensive game too. But I'm starting Tom Brady at this point every week. It looks like he has the chemistry. He's dialed in. Week 2, he was kind of laser focused. Tampa Bay's receivers let him down. Weeks 3 and weeks 4, he did well, so I'd play him. Ronald Jones actually looked better. I'm moving him back into the kind of a safe start area for me, although Fournette really wasn't a factor, obviously. Then we got Godwin. I don't know if he's going to be able to lace him up this week or not, but if he plays, he's a start. Mike Evans I like as a start. I'm away from everybody else. Except for maybe Gronkowski, because we saw O.J. Howard unfortunately blow his Achilles out. So we got more consolidation of targets. By the way, Tampa Bay throws 2 touchdowns to tight ends last week. None of them were to Gronkowski. Chicago, on the other hand, at this point with Foles, I'm a little bit of a wait and see. What I like is that he's distributing the ball. Again, this was my big beef with Trubisky, is Trubisky was using his legs, running around, and just hoisting the ball up to Allen Robinson. Nick Foles executes the offense better. I'm not freaking out about last week. Like I said, I did watch the game. It's just Indianapolis' defense is that good, everybody. I think Chicago does bounce back offensively this week, but Tampa Bay's defense, I think they bounce back after a tough performance against the Chargers. Foles, I'm a sit. I'm a sit on Montgomery. I'm a start on Allen Robinson, and maybe I'm a start on Jimmy Graham, but I'm staying away from everybody else until Chicago basically has 1 or 2 or 3 more games just to get some juice rolling with Nick Foles and get some chemistry there. Take it away, David.
Yeah, I'm going to start with Tampa, and I'm going to start with a disagreement, all right? You said you don't mind Ronald Jones. You're kind of coming back on him. And you're right, he did have a good game, 20 attempts for 111 rushing yards. I don't trust this guy at all, especially once Fournette's back in the lineup. Like, I feel like this was the product of Fournette being out.
Fair.
And you look at what he did in the receiving game, 6 receptions for 17 yards. He had at least 3 or 4 drops. This is just from me watching Red Zone. I saw it. And Tom Brady, did you guys see the look on Tom Brady's face after the show? He was rolling the eyes way back into he was visually wincing at these drops over Ronald Jones. And at a certain point, they brought Keyshawn Vaughn into the game.
I did notice that,
They
yeah.
had nothing to do with Keyshawn Vaughn this year. They brought him into the game. He got a receiving touchdown. I think he had a couple drops too himself, but he had a receiving touchdown. So, you talk about maybe Keyshawn Vaughn starts taking over the third down role a little bit. Leonard Fournette, when he comes back, it's going to cut into Jones' carries. I just don't see where the upside is for Jones when you talk about the backfield being fully healthy. So I think this is a time to sell.
Let me cut in there real quick. Those are great points, David. I remind everybody that I do watch every game, but I can only watch so many games on a Sunday. So this isn't one that I caught live. So the drops, I did not see the drops. And that's why I think in fantasy football it's so important. That's why I do catch up and watch every game. Great insight, David. I appreciate that because, quarterback trust, as we talk about with Gardner Minshew and DJ Chark, those kinds of things, like it's not always the sexy matchups. It's not always, the players that jump off the screen at you. I mean, that stuff matters. And if Tom Brady doesn't trust Ronald Jones, Tom Brady ain't throwing to Ronald Jones. The one play I did see was the one play that Gronk stood out on was that 29-yarder where Gronk pulls down. It's a classic Brady to Gronk, big play, needs something down the field, throw it to double coverage, and Gronk comes down with it. But anyway, you take it away again. Sorry, David.
That was Gronk's one catch on the day, by the way, 1 for 29.
Yeah, right.
But you can look at the box score and take away a positive in the receiving game for Jones, looking at 6 receptions.
Right.
I look at it the other way. If Brady's targeting the running backs between Jones and Vaughn 8 receptions that many times, that's that many more opportunities for Ronald Jones to drop the ball and lose that gig. So based on the number of running back targets coming from Tom Brady, I mean, I think Ronald Jones is going to factor himself out of that equation pretty quick.
I'm big on eye test. You have swayed me. Like I said, I didn't watch the game yet. I'll catch up on it. But if that's what ended up happening, I completely agree with you.
I will say on the other side, Bears, there's not a whole lot to talk about. I'm avoiding all of them. Montgomery, 10 rushes, 27 yards last week. I mean, you can start him in a cake matchup, I guess. You kind of have to if he's on your team. He's taken over the receiving work with Cohen out 3 receptions, 30 yards. But one thing that stands out to me that is kind of popping off the screen is Darnell Mooney.
Yes.
And I don't necessarily want this guy. I mean, I like Mooney. It's an offense to avoid, but I think it kind of hammers home the point that we can almost kind of give up on Anthony Miller as being the thing, at least for now.
Yeah.
Feel free to drop him. Don't go out of your way to add him. He's getting out-snapped, out-targeted. He's not running as many routes as Mooney. Right now, Mooney looks like number 2 in Chicago.
Yeah, and I will say that I agree with that. This is, again, a game I did watch, and Mooney just looks better. And he's been kind of a factor in the depth chart here and there. And you never know with first-team, second-team reps. Was he a guy that Nick Foles was connecting with while Trubisky was getting starting reps with Allen Robinson and with Anthony Miller during training camp and all that stuff? Again, Foles will distribute the ball more. Mooney, to me, is one of these guys, and I think Taylor Gabriel used to do this for the Bears in the last couple of years. He's a guy that if you play daily fantasy football and you're looking for that like $3,500 wide receiver, and I don't know what his budget is this week, he's the guy that could be that for Chicago. So yeah, that's a nice pull on that one as well, I think.
So what do we got for the spread on these two?
Okay, here we go. Bovada has the line at Tampa Bay -6 versus Chicago.
I think I'm going to go with Tampa Bay here. I don't love Tampa Bay, but Tom Brady did throw 5 touchdowns without Chris Godwin. And Chicago couldn't cover a 6-point spread against Indianapolis, so that's not saying a whole lot.
I'm with you, and my computers are with you as well. And again, Rockobot is much better weeks 4 through 16 once the in-season date is there. It's kind of a goofy year. I actually talked, with some of the sportsbook people this week, David, and I was saying, what's going on with home field advantage? How are you treating this? And they're like, well, we're still trying to figure it out, and it's probably going to take us the whole season to figure it out. Sometimes you get a 3-point advantage, sometimes you get a 1-point advantage, depending on crowds and travel and all that stuff. Basically, this is the weirdest year to bet in the NFL, so it's goofy, but Tampa Bay, to me, they did well against a good defense. The Chargers' defense isn't bad, everybody.
That's what was surprising the most part. In fact, he threw 5 touchdowns on the Chargers.
Yeah, and vice versa, by the way.
Mahomes in check.
And Herbert did pretty well against Tampa Bay, too, in his own right. So, yeah, I'm with you, Tampa Bay. I think they cover the spread. I think it just takes a little while for Chicago's offense to gel. People will probably be off them. I'm expecting them to be 3-2 after Thursday night. And then people will be sleeping on them because they were 3-0. Now they lost 2 in a row. But once Foles, if they're patient, once Foles gets some time in there, he has games against like the Detroit Lions, Chicago compete there. Like they can still make the playoffs, everybody. I think they're a pretty reasonable team. And that defense will keep them in games. They just played a better defense this last week.